Let us begin with a belief, one that we rarely question, one that spans across economics, politics, governments, and even corporate leadership, along with parenting. What is that belief, you ask? It is that control is good. In finance, control manifests itself as market regulations. In economics, it's all about governments and control, right? Even in parenting, it's about routines and deadlines and rules and night times. But what is the question that is really worth asking? What if we actually have to ask ourselves, is control really working? Are these systems that we have built really helping strengthen our systems or actually making them brittle? What if the most resilient and most successful systems worldwide are not the ones that are most controlled, but are, in fact, the ones that are most adaptive? A year ago, I was living what I thought was a very successful life. I was raising my toddler, I was raising capital for my startup, and I was also putting my team together. So I used to manage across the board from like the emails, writing, even for my teams, to nighttime routines and bedtime routines. And I thought it was all working. I thought that I had control over the entire system and it was all fine. One evening, I remember very clearly, I came from a long day of work and work travel, and it was my daughter's nighttime. So she was just going to sit for dinner, and I said, okay, let me just go and feed her. So I took a spoon and I fed her. She looked at me straight in the eye. I remember very clearly, and I was still in my blazer from my work. She looked at me straight in the eye and she just spat on my face. That's it. Poof. Full face of rice and broccoli and all of that mushiness on my face. And as my laptop was open and buzzing, and my phone was ringing off the hook, and my toddler was throwing another beautiful tantrum, I realized this was her way of saying, "Welcome home, Amma." And in that moment, something cracked open. I realized that why is it so hard when I'm trying so hard? It's not supposed to be this hard. Psychologist Ellen Langer calls it the illusion of control, where we overestimate our own influence in especially unpredictable circumstances. Control might look like power, but it is not. It is just packaging. There was one study that was conducted for people who were taking up lottery tickets. So there were folks who got to buy their own numbers, and there were those who didn't pick their own numbers. But the irony was that the ones who chose their own numbers felt like they had better chances of winning the lottery versus the ones who didn't. But the odds were both identical. What do we understand, right? Control just feels like you have power over a certain situation, but it's not. It's just packaging. So, what I realized was that I was not actually parenting, I was just programming. I was not leading somebody anywhere. I was not influencing anybody around me. I was just stifling. It was just suppression. So I took a step back and I said, okay, let me see what actually makes teams and systems really thrive. Correct? What should actually help people with being their best and coming out to do their best? And it was very, very, very funny because I saw that there was so much of research done. And one particular research really stood out for me. A global tech firm did a research to understand what was that one factor that made their most successful teams successful. And ironically, again, it was not about having the best talent or the most intelligent people or the most experienced people, but it was psychological safety. It's not control, it is trust. It's also very simple biologically. When you feel safe and comfortable, and when you feel like you're in a trusted environment, your body and your brain automatically releases dopamine and oxytocin, which helps you with creativity, connectivity, and engagement. It was also understood that there were many situations in which this control thing was applicable. It was not just true to themes, you know. And that's when I understood that there are many scenarios that we can actually start applying it. There was a research again done by Dr. Paul Zak, where he found that the most successful teams and the ones that had the most trust, in fact, had 50% more productivity, 76% better engagement, and 40% less burnout. Control may build walls, but letting go builds momentum. And that's when I realized that this is not something that is present, like I was saying before, not just in one scenario, let's say parenting or economics or finance. And we saw that commonality across the board. You have economies that are very overly regulated and they completely collapse, right? And you have countries that have shown autocratic or non-democratic rules, and we've seen that those rules completely collapse as well. Even in parenting, they found that parenting that supported the children having an autonomy over their own say and rule helped raise more resilient and emotionally intelligent children. Dr. Viktor Franklin has said that between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space, there is our power to choose, and in that choice lies our growth. I am telling you, letting go lies in that space. When you let go, it is not about giving up or being weak. Intention is what it is. It is actually influence. It is actually intention, right? So, for example, we are all breathing right now, right? You inhale, but at some point you have to exhale, right? You can't just keep holding on to it. Only when you exhale, you'll be able to give that space, that room for trust, for comfort, for safety, and for actual real growth. So let me ask you something. If there is a relationship that you're really holding on very tight to, or there is a team that you're trying to like completely like micromanage, or even your child, right, who you're trying to control and parent, what if today you decide to just take a step back and say, okay, let me give them some space. Let me let go. You might be very surprised at what you find. You might find that your child is actually thriving. You might find that the team is actually stepping up. But most important and the most powerful thing to me is that you will find a version of you that is clearer, lighter, and more with focus and vision. So let's do this, right? Let us take a step back today, go back and see what really might make that little difference by not trying to control a certain situation or a scenario. And today we really live in some extremely chaotic times. What with wars everywhere going around, and at the nook of it, you have no idea what is going to happen. Is the economy going to collapse, or is my country going to get bombed? So learn to let go a little bit, because there is so much more power in letting go than trying to actually hold on. Letting go is not about giving up. And control doesn't mean that you have all the power in the world. It just means that you're choosing a different kind of power. Nandri, Vanakkam.